For some reason, you guys love the videos I do going through the process of how a cavity is filled. Well, I got one that was really small that turned into a massive big cavity, and we're gonna see exactly how this dentist went through and fixed it. Now, this is important because you could have a small cavity lurking around in your mouth, and it could just turn over time into something as big as this. Let's check this out and see exactly what's going on. I'll tell you and talk you through the process. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Just wait till the end. The title of the video is Molar Tooth Caries Removal and Restoration and ASMR Event, hosted by yours truly, the Bentist, aka Dr. Winners. It is by Dr. RK De Leon. I'll have his channel linked in the bottom of the description. If you like this type of video, you can watch as many as you want. He's got tons of little videos like this, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so looking at it from the get-go, what we can see is a small cavity here. And actually, once it peeks through like this, it's probably not a small cavity anymore. It more looks like this from a small cavity. So let's go ahead and see the process and just go ahead and get started. All right, let's open it up and see. So first off, what you can see is he's got a rubber dam here. That's the blue thing. And that just keeps basically food and gunk out of the way of the teeth. Alrighty, so we're going in with an early drill here to go ahead and open it up. And so basically we're just uncovering enamel slowly. As a tooth is cavitated and decayed, it kind of chips away really easy, so it's pretty easy to see. But we got to get it open first from the top layer to see exactly how severe the damage is. You can see that little metal thing there. You can see this little metal clamp here. This is what we call a rubber dam clamp. It basically holds the rubber dam down and then goes. Ooh, let's pause it here. So basically what this is right here is this red stuff he's got putting in here. This is Caries marker. We call it VOCO for short. Basically, it connects to any bad tissue. So anything that is decayed or whatever will absorb this pink dye and will look bright pink to us. So that way we know we're not removing healthy dentin, which is the inside of a tooth layer. We're only removing the bad stuff. So there we go. So then he rinses it off and you can see that it's pretty stained pink inside, which means it's going to be a big one, just like he said. Wowzers. So one of the problems with having a big cavity is you can get close to the pulp. And if you hit the pulp, sometimes you got to go into a root canal and a crown. Now the pulp is the nerve of the inside of a tooth. So, all right, so he's cleaning it out. He uses a softer burr and he does it really slowly. It's bigger. You can see how it's kind of just chunking away on the inside. It's what we call caseous or cheese-like. Yeah, I know, it's the consistency of cheese is decayed dentin. So it's going in and removing some weak tooth structure. It's true. Yeah, so once it gets so weak, your tooth can just fracture it off eventually. So that's why you got to get these fixed. Alrighty, now it looks like he's smoothing some of the edges a little bit to make it a little bit more flatter for him. So basically, he's trying to make a good, basically, guideline for where he can do his restoration later. All right, now he's going in with a scoop. So once we get a little bit further down and we get closer to the pulp, we try and do it pretty slow. So actually, you can take a look right here. He just said, I am very close to the nerves and the pulp. So basically right here, he said, I am very close to the nerves and the blood vessel, the pulp. That's why he's using this little scooper. He's scooping it out with the cheese-like consistency here until he gets to something harder, and then he can go to a softer burr again to kind of finish it up. But you don't want to go too far, because if you puncture into the pulp and the nerve, blood's going to start squirting out. Then once that happens, it's all contaminated, and you have to get a root canal and a crown. Ugh, bad news. By the way, I still do have my racket on. I am whitening it for a video to see if it whitens. Does it leave a yellow square behind, or does it whiten on the tooth? I don't know. We're going to find out together. Just make sure you go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to be checking out for that. Now let's get back into the video. Very close to the nerves and blood vessel pulp. Yep. So local anesthesia just means that they basically got all the numbing stuff. It doesn't mean they're put to sleep. It just means that they basically have some numbing stuff in there, so they can't feel anything. So he's measuring the depth because there is a certain amount of dentin you have before the pulp normally. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it's like 5-6 millimeters or so. And so he's checking to see if he's got room left before he gets into a pulp situation. Still cleaning it up. Gotta love that smell. I mean, it is a weird smell, I tell you that. There are still some affected tooth structure, the pink dye. So he's gone that deep now. He's gone that deep. This little cavity turned out to be this big. And it is still showing pink, which means there is more decay, which means we are now in danger of getting close to that pulp. Alrighty, back at it we go. Apply some more Caries marker or red dye. Alrighty. Drying it up, seeing what he's got. This thing's getting big. So he's using a bigger and bigger round burr with a slower motor, so it doesn't take as much tooth structure away. He's really, really trying to be as careful as possible. Now, a burr like this is something that's a little bit stronger. It's actually coated in diamonds, just like Minecraft. And we go and we smooth out all the edges just to make sure everything's super, super smooth for the restoration. And a restoration is basically the tooth-colored filling that we use to repair it. You know, being a dentist is actually, ooh, it's all clean. So there is a little bit of pink there that you can see. He is probably going to try and let that suffocate or release. Sometimes you can put a little bit of chlorhexidine or some, you know, different type of stuff like that over the top of it. And if you fill it properly, it'll suffocate the bacteria and it will die. I'm assuming he thinks he's so close to the pulp, he doesn't want to risk an exposure. So that's what he's probably doing. An exposure means you punctured into the nerve and you really screwed up. But sometimes the decay goes so far you can't do anything about it. Finally, it is all clean. We will not remove the one that is very close to pulp. It's like I'm a dentist or something. Alrighty. So now we are probably going to etch. Time to roughen the walls or etch. We use phosphoric acid for that. That's the blue stuff. And what it does is it basically eats away the tubules and makes them all weird shapes and stuff, and it allows things to kind of grab onto it, kind of like Velcro almost. So it basically turns those straight tubules into Velcro, and then that allows the different materials we use to get in there. So basically he's getting that cavity cleanser. That's some of that stuff I was talking about that's going to really make sure all the bacteria is clean and gone, so that it suffocates whenever they get the final restoration in there, just to protect the pulp. You can see that that pulp is pretty red. So actually let's pause it real quick. You can see right here, this is the nerve showing through actually right here. That's not that pink cavity material anymore. That's actually blood, and the nerve is a living vessel. It's going and moving. There's blood flowing in and out of it. So what you can do is you can see it's right there. So he is really close. So he's being very, 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 very careful. And also he's doing this in the back of the mouth, guys. I don't think you understand. He's using a little mirror in the back of his mouth, and those movements he's making with those burrs are millimeter movements, really, really tiny. And normally when you do a restoration like that, you want to do it in layers, because if you fill the whole entire thing up at once and you try and light cure it, which the light actually hardens the glue that we use, it actually won't penetrate deep enough to get the glue on the bottom, and it'll stay uncured. So we have to do it in layers, light it, layer, light it, layer, light it. So make sure it's strong and it's proper enough and we don't leave anything uncured. So you'll probably see he's gonna do it in layers. Alrighty, so we got the first layer going in. He's using a flowable, which just means it's not as hard. It's a liquidy form. And so it just kind of gets into every little crack and crease on there. And then there you go. He's doing the first layer. You can see it just built up a little bit. This is a pretty big cavity to fill. So he's going back in, he missed a spot. This music's a vibe, isn't it? Layering time to avoid shrinkage and dislodgement. Yep. That's another thing people don't talk about is the old metal amalgam fillings versus composite fillings. So those old metal fillings actually wouldn't really expand, they would corrode. They would fill in the tight spots and make everything seal even better. Now composite actually shrinks and expands with heat and cold. So if you have one big thing, it'll shrink and expand and shrink and expand and shrink and expand until it breaks off and the filling pops out. So that's why doing it in layers, they all kind of shrink and expand in different layers, and they have less chance of failure and breakage. Alrighty, so yeah, just like I said, layering to avoid the shrinkage and dislodgement there. Alrighty, we're adding in there, lightening it up. That's just a different type of glue or composite material, and that's because the inside of your tooth is actually darker than the outside. So we use a little bit different colors of material on the inside versus the outside. Alrighty, so now we are going, yeah, exactly right. More layers means a stronger restoration. We went over this. So now is probably my favorite part of doing dentistry. Now, I don't do this much anymore because I'm an orthodontist, so I do straightening of teeth now, but this was my favorite part to do regular dentistry, and that is sculpting and molding. It's almost like you're an artist, you're a sculptor. You're trying to basically get it to look exactly how a natural tooth looked. And so you can see he's using a little bit thicker of a glue here, and he's molding what we call the cusp tips. So the cusp tips are all these mounds on the edge of the tooth. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 mounds or cusp tips on this tooth that he's got to repair. Trying to restore it just like his original shape. That's the best thing. If you're a really good dentist, you can make it look just like a normal tooth versus some bad fillings that just look flat across and they're not very good. This guy actually he's pretty good. He knows what he's doing for sure. Took around 1.5 hours. Now you got to remember, he's doing this in the back of a mouth with a mirror looking in backwards. And he's filming it while he's doing it. That is insane. So he is going in and still filling all those cusp tips up. And then you can see the edge of the tooth is still not done too. So he's going to have to add some around the edges as well. Trying my best. I feel you, brother. It's tough. It is a tooth at the back of the mouth. It's one of the hardest ones to do. It's at the very back of the mouth. Yeah, I don't think people realize. They see it really big here on the YouTube screen, but it is such a minute, tiny movement. It's called a micro movement, or less than a millimeter of movement when he's moving this thing around. Super, super tiny. And he's using a gold tip spatula there because it does not stick to the composite as much. The last thing you want is a sticky composite. Ooh, he's using some orange stuff. I don't really like using that. It basically makes it look like it has a natural stain, just like the regular teeth. So you can see, look at that. Would you look at that? Wow. So you can see he has the staining. That's from the orange to make it look more like his other teeth. I get it. You want it to look like there's nothing that's ever been done there. So he's got basically that stain. He's got all the cusp tips. He did all the ridges, all the grooves, just like they have natural grooves here. This guy is good. Let's see what we're doing now. Taking the rubber dam clamp off, popping that sucker out, and then now he's going to finish it up. Now, this is pretty tough. You got the back of the mouth. You see he's using the mirror there to try and keep the tongue out of the way so he doesn't hit your tongue. Now, this guy can't feel anything. He's completely numb. So now we're doing some occlusion bite paper. This is super important to make sure it's not super high, because if it is high, you're going to have a lot of headaches and teeth pain because you're going to be biting on the tooth too much. So we're just checking. It'll just leave a little red spot on there. And you see that little red spot, he's just taking it right off right there. And he'll just keep doing that until it's perfect. There you go. That is actually so insane. If you looked at this, I would not know that this has been done by a dentist. This looks just like a real tooth. So there you go. Let me know down below if you like these videos and you want to see some more new Something Nice products coming out soon. Like the video or have crooked teeth for life. I'll see you in the next one.